is Wednesday night. It is 8:00. It's August 16th for anyone who cares that it's August 16th. And this is another Mac to the Future live cast. I'm your host, Guy Searle. And take a look around. Listen close. Listen. Do you hear that? It's no drama. No drama. I'm reasonably okay with my teeth. There's nothing particularly weird going on with audio or video. Everything seems to be working pretty well. I don't know what to do with myself. It's beyond contemplation that there's nothing bad happening, which just means we just have to give it time. Got something really kind of cool to go over with you guys tonight. And as you know, next Monday, or you may not know this, but next Monday, all the way across the United States, there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun. The moon is going to block out the sun in this like 90-mile path that goes all the way across. And the reason why this is such a big deal is it's the first time there's been a total eclipse in 99 years. So, I had been kind of feeling out the wife to find out if she wanted to do anything related to the eclipse, because this is also our 25th wedding anniversary. And I figured, it's the first solar eclipse in 100 years. It's the 25th wedding anniversary. Her birthday was earlier this month. My birthday is early next month. We've kind of been somewhat separated this summer because of all the long trips that I've been taking. In June, I drove down to Florida with my son Peter and his friend for his 21st birthday. Tracy didn't go. In July, I went to Chicago for MacStock 2017, which was freaking awesome. And they're doing it again next year, so it's not too early to decide whether or not you want to go to MacStock 2018. And believe me, it is so much fun. You really don't want to miss it. And then not this weekend, but the weekend after that, I'm flying to Boston. And when I get there, I'm going to help my son pack up all of his stuff. He's lived in Boston for the last year and doesn't really care for it. So he's coming back home to Virginia. And then he and I are going to road trip it back. So there's been like all these long trips. And my wife and I really haven't done much together. I mean, we went to North Carolina for a family reunion, which we've been doing like every year for, well, close to 30 years, I guess, however long we dated before we actually got married. So I thought, this should be fun, but there was a couple things in the way. First of which was work. That entire week we had been told that we couldn't take off because we were trying to figure out the budget for FY 2018. But I did some sweet talking, and it was like, come on, we're not really going to present until later on in the week. It's not that big a deal if I'm not there. And they went ahead and gave me the time off. So that means Saturday, I'm driving with my wife all the way down to South Carolina. We're going to be about 10 miles from the totality. And so we're going to be there Saturday morning, all day Sunday. Monday, we'll drive down. We'll find some place to go. We still haven't figured this out yet. Some place to go to view the eclipse in its totality. And then as soon as the eclipse is over around 4 p.m., we have to jump back in the car and drive back home because I have to be to work Tuesday morning. Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of drama. But before in researching this, I looked online, and there are some really cool web resources. If the eclipse is anything that you're interested in, there's some cool web resources, and I've got some of them queued up here. I'm going to show them here on the show and tell you how to get to them if try to do your own eclipse kind of thing. Um, what else? After the break, I got a request from Chris Fowler, who is, of course, one of the people that are part of the Mac to the Future Facebook page, which you can find there, of course, on Facebook, Mac to the Future. It's the only way to watch me do this live on Wednesday nights because I only do it here on this page. You can certainly catch it later on. You can, I've got it set up. There's a YouTube channel, and I repost those YouTube videos here on the Mac to the Future page. But this is the only place that you can see it live. Anyway, let's take a look, see who we got in the chat room. We got David Ginsburg. Yeah, woohoo! Max Stock. Thanks for the 25 there, Dave. Let's see. What happened in 1979? Is that, tell me, if you're going to tell me that's when you were born, I'm going to be so disappointed. Ed Eisen gives me a thumbs up, so hooray. We got at least 2 or 3 people watching right now, so other than Dave Ginsburg, you guys go ahead and sign in and, let me know who you are and what's going on. Ed is here. David Ginsburg thought the eclipse. No, that's what my head looks like. Now, if I could just get the lamp to go across, we'd have a total eclipse of the sun here in the room. No. Anyway, you guys ready to go over and look at some of the stuff that I found? I am going to bring this up and let's see. I've got them. Let's see. I got them set up. No, that's not what I want. There we go. Okay. I've got this. Hopefully this will work. If it doesn't, I'll look the fool. There we go. Okay. Here is the eclipse page. I'm going to put on, you can't see it, but I'm putting on my glasses so I can read a little bit better. This is Solar Eclipse Across America, and it gives you a little timeline here. This is at eclipse.aas.org. Actually, let me go ahead and grab this link. I'm going to grab some of these links and I'm going to put them in the chat room so that you guys can kind of follow along here. So that's the one I'm looking at right now. And what they've got here, they've got some great resources for Eclipse-related apps and software. And it's device and OS kind of specific. Here's some apps for iOS devices, Android. And the stuff we're going to look at tonight is basically stuff that you can look at through any device that has a web browser. And there's some other programs that I'll bring up. The thing is, I don't want to buy these programs, but they're here if you want to. And you can find all the links to that here on this page, which is eclipse.aas.org, resources, or /resources/apps-software. Of course, I put the link in there, so I guess I didn't have to say that, but I did anyway. Haha! So this is a great site for this. And the next one on the list should be, they have a, where is it? Here we go. This is the Eclipse Eclipse countdown page. I like this. 4 days, 17 hours, 6 minutes, 37 seconds. And the cool thing about this page, they actually have an interactive map here. And we're going to bring that up. And hopefully, I'm not sucking up all the bandwidth here. This is taking a little bit of time. La la. Ba, 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 ba. Well, it's gonna take a second, but let me go ahead and copy the link for this one. Copy. So that's eclipse-app.simulationcurriculum.com. And it's still not. Okay, you know what? We're going to move on to the next one. And the next one is from NASA, JPL Labs and NASA. This is also a very cool site. They've got some great stuff on here. If hopefully it'll come up unlike the other one. There's the link to it there in the chat room. And let's see, let's launch the interactive app that they are showing here. So here we go. Maybe. You know, a lot of this might also be with it coming so quickly. I mean, the eclipse coming so soon that these sites could be really, really busy. So here's the path. You can see the path going directly across the United States. You got a little dot or a little red dot there in Kansas City. And we are going to zoom in to the area that we're going to be at. You can actually move the globe around a little bit here, which is way cool. And the closer you get, the more these little cities pop up. So we are going to be like just south of Charlotte, which is where our hotel is. It looks like, no, I want Heath Springs. That's pretty close to where, that's actually where the hotel is, more or less. So as you can see over here on the lower right side, that's exactly what the eclipse is going to look like as it's going through. And it looks like it's going to be from where we are, it's 99 point something percent total. But of course, Tracy wants to see it. You know, she says, like, we're so close, we may as well see it as close as we possibly can get. So we are going to get even closer. Log off. I wish this would zoom in a little more. Let me look at this other one, see if this one came up. Nah, this one is still just being a brat. Let's try it again. Interactive eclipse map. Yeah, that's going to be a big disappointment, I think. Well, we'll check it again a little bit. Anyway, so this is the timeline, of course, for the eclipse. And I mean, this NASA JPL site is just freaking amazing. It is really, really cool. I like it. You can enter in exactly where you'll be on a 3D globe, and you can see what the eclipse is going to look like. How cool is that? So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll throw some of these links in there too. But it's eyes.jpl.nasa.gov/eyes on eclipse.html, and it's a really, really cool kind of demonstration that they're doing here. So we're going to move on to the next one. Now, what this one is this gives you some ideas on where to go across the country to view the eclipse. Unfortunately, you can't really zoom in or out. And once you click on one of the areas, you know, you're kind of stuck there. You can kind of zoom in and out, but it's not the easiest one to deal with. And I'm looking for I think this is I-77 going ending up in Columbia. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that's I-77. So zoom in a little more. And yeah, so we're going to be let's see, I need to get closer. Oh, this doesn't really have the street names on them. But I think we're going to be looking for Lancaster Road. And yeah, it's not being real cooperative. But this website here will, and this is naturalatlas.com, will give you some ideas on where to go to view it, because you can just stand on the side of the road, but that would kind of suck. Let's see. This gives you best places to see the eclipse visitors and traffic, quality eclipse merchandise. And since we're talking about this, there's a lot of fake glasses out there to view the eclipse. If you're going to view it make sure, number one, that you're not looking at it with absolutely no protection. And number two, that the whatever glasses it is that you're using is basically set up to view something like this. You could do your eyes some serious damage with not having the right equipment for this. And remember, there's always the old trick of you basically you take a paper plate and a paper cup, and you poke a hole in a paper cup, and then you shine that into the sun, and then you look at the paper plate as it's obviously not looking directly at the sun, and you can kind of follow along with what the eclipse is doing there. But there's like all kinds of stuff here that you can pick, including the best place to see the totality in South Carolina, which is where we're going to be. Whoops. And it's a good site for stuff like this. And I've basically left it up to my wife to determine where we're going to go. Now, as far as the next stuff goes, this is some of the software that you can buy if you're interested in astronomy. Stellarium, which is available for a variety of different platforms: Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. It's free. This is free open source software, so you could try that. There's also neither one of these are free. There's Starry Night, and there's also Sky Safari, and both of these are pretty highly recommended. It's really kind of cool software, but it is not free, and it will cost you an arm and a leg to not just for the software, but for all the accessories that will make it more interesting. And I think that's going to be about it for all of that. Let me come back over here to, no, I don't want that with the text. Come on. Oh, it'll go away here in just a second. Yeah, with all this stuff going on, I am using the crap out of CPUs. So I'm going to get rid of some of this and see if I can reduce the amount of pressure that I am putting on this computer. And it looks like that's going to do it there. So everyone, please hold on just a second. And well, that's weird. OBS is acting kind of funky. So the drama has not stopped. Anyway, see if this works. When we come back, we will talk about some other stuff. So hold on. Maybe. Oh, not yet. Oh, it's not letting me pick nothing.
Everybody, please stand by. And, well, we'll be right back.
And welcome everyone back to the mymac.com podcast.
All right, so let's carry on. But
I'm still laughing about something that happened just before we started recording, and we're going to talk about that right now.
I don't know if you heard, Guy, but Sal's going. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that. He's leaving Apple. It's a tragedy for everybody.
Oh dear, this is not going well, is it? We are so childish.
We are.
Really are.
It's the G-Men on the mymac.com podcast. Okay, hey, we're back. And that is so weird. It'll let me pick my camera that has like the lower third that I have built in, but I can't select the camera that doesn't have that. Okay, well, we're good. Up until we go to, up until I go to end the show, when I've got to select the closing credits, and I don't know if it's going to let me select them. So, haha, that should be interesting. Now every week I ask for suggestions on things to talk about here on the show, and I got a response from Chris Fowler. Obviously, one of the guys or gals. Chris could be either way, but I think it's a guy. About things that modern Macs can do that Apple never intended. Now, I don't know, and I'm looking at the list of stuff that he has here. I don't know if these are things that Apple never intended for the Mac to do, or if it's just stuff they didn't think of. And there is a difference, in one case, if it's never intended, you've put out a product and you're saying, okay, well, this product is good for X, Y, and Z, but you can't do 1, 2, and 3. So, you can't do, we're not going to let you do that. And then somebody does it anyway. And a good example of this, it'll come up here in the list. But as far as, it's stuff they hadn't thought of, that's a whole different thing. That's like saying the, you can do this on your Mac and we're surprised that you can because we never thought of it. That kind of thing. Anyway, what he has here on the list is multi-boot Linux and any other x86 64 based OS. Well, once they went to Intel and introduced Boot Camp for going directly into Windows, it pretty much opened up the Mac to any x86 based operating system through, Windows, of course, through Boot Camp. But then you also have Parallels and Crossover and a plethora of different programs that you can install other operating systems and use, other people's software that was never intended to run on the Mac. I know that it was a couple of years ago, and I think it was PC Magazine was saying that the best computer to run Windows on was a Mac. How weird is that? What else we got? Historical, vintage, strange development and prototype things like AUX, Copeland, Rhapsody, and Next Hardware. Now, what he's talking about here is in the time frame just before and just after Steve Jobs came back to Apple. Jobs, of course, was running Pixar, the animation studio, or I don't know how much he ran, but he certainly owned it. And he also had another computer company that more or less bombed called Next. Hardware was great. Operating system was really cool, but it was super expensive. I mean, you think Macs are expensive even back then. The Next was like crazy expensive. So there wasn't a whole lot of development for it. But the Next OS had some really cool features on it that wouldn't come to the Mac until OS 10 came out. Of course, the Next kernel, which I believe is also based on BDS Unix, that what became kind of the basis of what OS 10 was going to have. But there was some other cool stuff that was going on there. You had AUX, which was like Apple's Unix environment. Copeland and Rhapsody were some of the ideas that this is pre-Jobs coming back to Apple, were some of the ideas that were being tossed around for the next version of the Macintosh operating system. By this time, System 7 and 8 were out. Our System 7 was out, but it really wasn't that good. And because systems 8 and 9 were kind of based on the foundation of System 7, which in itself was a rewrite of the classic Mac OS that was on like the very first computer I had, which was a Mac Plus in 1987, was originally on the when I got it, it was still on System 5, but the farthest it could get was 604. And that was for all the the 68,000, 68,000, 20, 30, and 40 Motorola microprocessors. And System 7, 8, and 9 were more or less, you needed kind of beefier hardware. So that was pretty much reserved. As far as pure Motorola stuff goes, it was the 68030s and 040s. And then, of course, the PowerPC chips when IBM, Apple, and Motorola got together for the AIM alliance that was started making the G3 and G4 and G5 chips as time went on. But Copeland and Rhapsody were supposed to have things like memory protection, because 7, 8, and 9 were just crash city. I was doing some rudimentary video editing at the time, and the thing that everybody used to tell people was, when it comes to the Mac, yeah, there were some really cool tools. Save early, save often, because you never knew when your whole system was going to crash. And if it crashed, anything that you'd been doing prior to that crash that you hadn't saved, gone. So there was no protection there at all. And but Copeland and Rhapsody were supposed to have kind of like what they did with OS 10. They were supposed to have an emulation layer for the old version of the Mac OS, so people that were coming on board wouldn't have to abandon all of their software as they waited for developers to kind of catch up with the latest operating system. Well, there was a number of reasons why it didn't work. Number one, Apple was being pulled in so many different directions, and there were so many different people that had their own ideas on what the Mac should be and how it should operate, that there was nothing getting done. There was nothing getting done of any real substance. And that was part of what Jobs took care of when he first came back. He was like, okay, well, this crap has got to stop. So he focused everyone's attention on the things that were important. He got rid of some of the pie in the sky products like the Pippin, which he was talking about. Chris was talking about that here. He killed off the Newton. He kind of rolled some of Apple's software off onto its own little thing, and they took what was then the genesis of the next operating system and started to work that into being OS 10. And that's more or less what happened. Let's see what else has he got here. Hackintoshes. Well, that was up until Apple went to the Intel platform. There really wasn't a whole lot in the way of Hackintoshes, because PCs, the cheap PCs that you could potentially put the Mac OS on, was a different architecture than what the Mac was. The Mac was on G3 through G5, which was PowerPC, which was reduced instruction set chip, RISC chip, as compared to x86, which is a complex instruction set chip, or otherwise known as CISC. So you didn't have to, there was no such thing really as a homemade Macintosh. You just didn't really see them that well. I mean, there were a couple cool things going on. There was a company that was taking, I don't know where they got their microprocessors, but they were kind of reverse engineering the Mac and using bits and pieces from what they could find and reverse engineering the hardware to run the Mac OS, and none of them lasted very long. But once Apple went to Intel, that was pretty much it. They, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was certainly a lot easier. Cross-platform compatibility. I don't know if that's something that Apple never intended or never thought of. Once both Windows and the Mac shared a similar hardware set, it became much easier to do cross-platform compatibility with software. Emulation and other nerdy stuff that he can't think of right now. Yeah, there's, these are all things that has made the Mac what it is as time has gone on. And it's a credit to the company, and it's a credit to the pioneers of the company, Wozniak and Jobs, and all of the people that made Apple what it is, that made the Mac what it is. That, I mean, a lot of that is the reason why we continue to support the company. We wanted something that wasn't Windows. We wanted something that was different. And even with all of Apple's problems, especially in the 90s, it wasn't Windows. It wasn't just the same old stuff that everybody else had. And that's what a lot of people were looking for. I didn't want Windows back then. I have never owned a Windows computer. I know how to use a Windows computer. I use it every day at work. And there's nothing wrong with it. I actually had it through boot camp. I had Windows 7 on a Mac Pro. Didn't make it a Windows PC. It just meant that I had Windows on a separate drive in the Mac Pro and I could run it. I ended up taking it off because I would go into it once, 2, 3, 4 times a year, and every single time I would boot it up, it would take 30 minutes to an hour of updates before I could actually just get to the desktop of Windows. And that's for the birds. I just didn't even want to bother with it. So, kind of a short show this week. I think that is going to about do it. If you'd like to get a hold of me, I can be reached Guy at mttfgo.com. Also, of course, here on Facebook, Guy Searle. You can reach me in the Mac to the Future room, gsearle1 at gmail.com. On the Twitters, I am Mac Parrot. And we have, there's a Skype telephone number that is so lonely. It's ever so lonely. 703-436-9501, 703-436-9501. And if anybody ever bothers to call it, I will play your call here on the show. I have ways of doing that. But I think until next week, I will see you later. I hope everyone has a great time. Make sure, if you can, be outside during the eclipse. This is, even if you can't be anywhere close to where the totality is, even if you're as far away from it like I would have been here in the DC area, it was still 80 to 90%, which is still pretty flippin' cool. So be outside for that. In most areas, if, of course, we're just talking about the United States here, check some of the resources that I've put in here and see if they'll tell you what's the best time to view it in your area. And assuming that I can hit the close credit button here, and that's not a guarantee, I'll see you next week. No, come on, you. Stop it. I don't want that. Oh, it's not doing it. Wow, this thing is like really messed up. There we go. You couldn't hear me because I had it muted. Muted. Yes, I did.